Hi, I am therapist and relationship coach Micah Ross. You can find out more about me at micahross.com. And today I want to talk about the period of time where my husband and I were frenemies. It was a dark time. And I get the term frenemies from the show Friends, if you've ever watched Friends. It didn't really feel like we were totally friends, but it didn't feel like we were totally enemies. And there was this incident where he came inside one morning, looked at me, and said, "You left the garage light on last night." And I turned it off. And every part, I could just, ooh, I wanted to fight him. I wanted to defend. I wanted to compile a stack of evidence of all the things that I do for him on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. But instead, on that day, I really sat there and thought about, why am I irritated? Why does this irritate me? And I didn't have a really clear way of saying what was bothering me. And we had a really good friend stay with us. Her name is Nicole. We both really like her. So I said to my husband, if Nicole stayed the night, and I really was just wondering out loud, and she left the garage light on, would you tell her in the morning? And he said, no, I don't think I would. And I said, why is that? And he said, I have no idea. And it's this place in all of us when we're in really close relationships, we start to act from this really unconscious place sometimes. And he really was totally unaware of why he would say something to me and why he wouldn't say something to Nicole. And so I said, I don't know totally why either, but it really feels like you and Nicole are friends and you and I are enemies. And in this time in our relationship, it really felt like we were enemies. We were fighting about the most ridiculous things, like who left the garage light on? Who cares? And what I figured out at that time about what bothered me about this conversation was what I perceived to be Eric's intent. And I perceived his intent to be that he wanted to teach me a lesson. Like, that was the whole point of his conversation with me, was to teach me a lesson about leaving the garage light on. And when somebody wants to teach us a lesson, it can trigger our flight or fight response. And so some of you listening, it might trigger your flight. You want to avoid, you want to shut down. In me, I wanted to fight. I wanted to defend. I wanted to compile evidence. I wanted to be right. I wanted him to go down. But I didn't act on it this day. We didn't move very far on that day. But what we figured out was that there was something that was unresolved and that had impacted our perspectives of each other. And that bigger thing that wasn't resolved sort of ended up being like the pink river of slime in Ghostbusters, underneath the city that's making everybody act crazy. It sort of crazified our relationship, and we were fighting over the most ridiculous things. But what's been so helpful in getting out of that is having some really clear language about the possible different intents that other people can have towards me and that I can have towards other people. And so there are absolutely times in our relationship where I have been teaching Eric a lesson. And I know what that's going to do to our conversation and our relationship. And I've got to figure out a way to do it in a different way. So I just encourage you to get these. They're really easy skills. They just take a lot of practice, but the difference that it can make in your relationships is so huge, because it can keep something small like who left the garage light on from snowballing into months and months of funk in your relationships. So go to micahross.com and get more information. There's tons of information in my blog posts, and there's some other videos. And do what it takes to keep under your relationship rug clean. And I think Cowboy wants to say goodbye. Come here, Cowboy! Come on! If you come see me, you'll get to see Cowboy too. Oh, you're he's so cute. You're such a baby. Yes. Say goodbye. Goodbye, everybody. Say, come see me.